right on three. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
This is the Coach Kevin May Show, presented by State Farm agent Alex Hetrick in Delmont. Here's Sean Myers and the head coach of the Seton Hill Griffins, Kevin May.
We welcome you into Griffins Game Day here on the Westmoreland Sports Network before the Griffins at home take on Bloomsburg University today on WSN. Sean Myers joined by Kevin May, the first-year head coach of the Griffins here on the Kevin May Show. And first off, a big congratulations. Your first head coaching victory guiding the Griffins 42-21 at West Liberty. That has to be a pretty significant career milestone. What did it feel like to see that first W?
Yeah, it felt good, and I really didn't think of it as a milestone or didn't have that in the back of my mind and really didn't want it to be about me post-game or even during the game. It was good to get a win because winning is hard, and it's good to win no matter what your role is. So, first win is great, but I didn't really overplay it or think much about a big milestone. It's just good to get on the right track and get in the win column.
I'm sure you wanted to downplay it, but the team understood the significance. So did they do anything cool for you? Did the assistant coaches do anything to recognize it?
Yeah, I think they kind of read the room a little bit. After they wanted me to break the team down, and they all said it's my first win and all that stuff, and then they kind of saw that I wasn't like overly ecstatic about it and just wanted to keep the status quo, so they kind of responded as such. But they were happy for me. They wanted pictures after the game. There was a lot of congratulations and stuff, but I tried to make it as little about me as possible and just move on.
Talking to my colleague and the producer today, Dan Flickinger, who has seen Seton Hill football for a decade and a half, he thought it was one of the more impressive overall victories in all phases that he could recall for Seton Hill, winning by 21 points. And to be honest, most of the second half, you probably had even wider margin than that. And then contributing in all three phases of the game because offense was good, defense created a score, special teams created a score. Did it feel like a pretty complete, near perfect game? Although I know the coaches always have a tendency to nitpick. Did it feel pretty darn impressive in all phases?
Yeah, it did at the time, certainly. When you watch the film, you could always nitpick and find what we could have done better and how to get better in situations. But on the field, it certainly felt that way. All three phases really clicked, and our coordinators on all three sides had really good game plans, and we were able to capitalize on some things that they saw on film, and our kids executed the game plan. We challenged our kids early in the week that if we put a game plan together, the challenge to you is to execute that game plan. You're trusted with that responsibility, and they did. They made plays when it was presented to them, and all three phases were able to impact the game. We scored in all three phases, and it was a complete game. And really, more than anything, in our first two games here, we haven't had the false starts, the procedure penalties. Like there's been some penalties, sure, but like the sloppy football has pretty much been eliminated, and we're able just to go play the best we can and not make it about Seton Hill versus Seton Hill, but we could truly play our opponent.
I had talked to you previously about how maybe you just kind of ran out of time in your first game, but there was some good things offensively late in that game that you could carry over. It seemed like it did carry over. First offensive drive yields a touchdown. How significant was that to get on the board early?
Well, it was huge. You asked me that question last week. How important would it be to start fast? And, first drive of the game, we got an interception on defense. And then we went right down and scored on offense. We had to convert a fourth down, but then we went down and scored on offense. And that wasn't an easy drive. That was I think a 3rd and 24 we scored on. And those are some things that we can't sustain, converting on 3rd and 24s, but we had some big time conversions on that drive and scored. And then we got a surprise onside kick, and we had all the momentum back in our favor and ended up not getting another fourth down, but just to start that fast with a takeaway on defense, a touchdown on offense, and then an onside kick like this, the momentum was completely in our favor. And you could see West Liberty kind of being deflated because of it, and our guys kind of using that momentum to gain some confidence early in the game. And we talked all week in practice about starting early and not having to respond to something, and we did. And because of that, we were able to really control the majority of that ball game.
The Hilltoppers pulled even late in the first quarter. You got the lead back in the second quarter because of a special teams touchdown courtesy of Drew Zimmerman. What did you see that allowed that play to unfold?
Yeah, well, Coach Burrell does a great job with all of our special teams, and he saw some things on film with how they protected it and specifically what their shields did. And so he mixed up a couple different looks early, and he liked what he saw. And then Jacob Grimes just really executed. Like it wasn't anything special. He did his job. He had great block fundamentals, and then Drew Zimmerman picked it up and ran the rest of the way. So it was really just a routine special teams play that was dialed up well by Coach Burrell and executed well by our players. And We expect them to make those plays when they're in that position, and Jacob Grimes did.
West Liberty had almost an immediate response, however, a long touchdown connection. That was probably one play that you would like to clean up. So it's 14 all, and it seemed like that was going to be the score going into the locker room. Your team got the football relatively deep in your own territory with not a lot of time left. And truly, I thought it was one where it could have gone either way, maybe just basically trying to take it into the half if you didn't maybe have a big play early in the drive. You started at the 12. Well, Craig provided a nice run, and it seemed like that really set up the drive. Talk me through the decision process of how you guys decided to ultimately go for it.
Yeah, well, it really started the series before that. So when we were on offense, the series before it, we were backed up, and they were calling their timeouts. They wanted the ball back, and we punted to them, and we had a pretty good punt to flip the field. And then on their first play, we got a sack, so we backed them up. So then we started to call our timeouts. They were going to put their foot on the pedal and try to score. We got a sack on the first play, so we started to call our timeouts, and we got the ball back, and they pinned us back deep. So the conversation with Coach Holzer was really, hey, just give the ball to Chiron. Let's go to halftime. Let's get out of the half. And Chiron broke a 20-something yard run, and that completely changed the dynamic of that game, of that possession. If we would have got tackled for a couple of yards, we would have let the clock run. We would have gone to halftime and been safe about it. But he provided a spark, and the very next play, Clinton Washington has a really big play. Now we're in business, and we have no timeouts, but we have our Mayday field goal ready to go on the sideline. And Coach Holzer and I are talking about the situation, in which he and I have had great communication that way. And then it just completely flipped from let's go to halftime to okay, let's press a little bit. And then in a couple of plays we scored, and that was really to go up by 7 into the half and get momentum when we got the ball back in the second half too. So that was we talk about winning the middle eight. Middle eight for us is the last 4 minutes of the second quarter and the first 4 minutes of the third quarter, that kind of 8 minutes in the middle of the game. And that was a huge swing for us to win the middle eight and get the ball back in the second half.
And the second half, especially the third quarter, your team was just dominant. You scored 21 unanswered in that quarter, 28 unanswered total going back to that late second quarter touchdown. I have to ask about a pick six that spanned 74 yards, though. That was Darius Patterson, his second interception of the game. I know he's been recognized as the defensive athlete of the week in the PSAC West. That was not an easy interception. And once he got it, he had to cover a lot of ground to get to the opposing end zone. What made that play so special?
Yeah, I mean, Darius it's no secret why we get recognition in making these plays. He's very coachable. He does his job. He's talented, but he wants to be good. And he's great footwork, great fundamentals, all the details. He is so coachable for how young he is. And, we got some pressure on the quarterback. He threw a bad ball, and Darius had great hands and made a play, and then did what he's coached to do. He ran down the numbers, and we had guys blocking for him and leading a convoy. And it wasn't just, run back to the middle of the field and try to be special. He just did what he's coached to do when he gets an interception, and he just ran it back 74 yards for a touchdown. So he's a product of doing the right things. He's practices hard. He's coachable. For as young as he is, he's really mature, and he cares. He wants to be good, and as a result, he's playing really, really good football.
Put up 42 points without Chiron Craig really having one of his traditional games, 63 yards rushing. Not that it was a bad game. You mentioned he made a play late in the first half that really swung momentum, but that has to be a welcome sign to see that you can put up that type of number without him having a monster game. So what else stood out, and in particular, who else stood out that you were really impressed by?
Yeah, I think offensively, we're getting the passing game going a little bit. Isaac Ashley had another good game, another handful of catches and a touchdown, and Clinton Washington really stepped up. He had two really difficult catches, one for a touchdown and one to get us into position to keep going on the 2-minute drill at the end of the half. He played well. We had a couple other. Ahmad Ward scored his first touchdown for us, which was cool to see. We had guys blocking in the perimeter. It's just Elijah Bennett had some carries for us, and Bowden had some carries for us. And I think we're doing a better job of just not give the ball to Chiron and see what happens. We got to, when teams load up and load the box to stop Chiron, we got to have some answers. And I think Coach Holzer and his staff are doing a good job of just getting some better answers and spreading the ball around and not just making it a one-man show.
Does it feel significantly different, the vibe of the team after a win like that?
Yeah, it was cool to see their excitement. I think more than anything, they have some confidence and belief about themselves and about this program. And then, it was our job as coaches to kind of bring them back to reality, and they responded really well. What I was really proud of, Sean, is on the sideline, we've never been in that position before since I've been here, where our backups are playing because we're winning, And, the starters are on the sideline. We're up by, like, we know the game's over by a certain point. And there wasn't any, like, they weren't complacent. They weren't like, talking trash. They were very like, next play, spot the ball, let's go play, even though we're winning, instead of adversity. Now it's a good thing to handle. And they did a really good job responding. I don't think they felt like they're on top of the world right now. Like, this week of practice was really, really good. We were really hard on them with what they did poorly over the weekend. And I think they're responding really, really well. And they're handling, winning by that margin in a good way, and not overlooking some of the mistakes that we did that we need a remedy to get better going forward.
See Coach Kevin May's show here on Griffin's Game Day, Westmoreland Sports Network, before today's kickoff. So Bloomsburg comes to town, and man, did they have a heartbreaker. It was a 41-40 overtime loss against Fairmont State, a team that you know very well. That was their first game of the 2025 season for the Huskies. What did you take away from that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, they're very, very disciplined. They play very, very hard, and they're a well-coached team. And, you kind of feel for them, because it was similar to last year. They had a lot of games like this last year, including our game, where they lose on the last possession, the last drive, something happened where they don't quite win the game, but they scored a lot of points against a good Fairmont team. They're running a kind of unique scheme on both sides of the ball, but especially offensively. They're like a blend of modern and old school triple option, a lot of motions and stuff, and they operate really, really well. You could tell they're well coached. They play really, really hard. They have a good mix of veteran players and some young talent that are new faces to the program that are having roles pretty early because they're talented. But they, on all phases, special teams, offense, defense, they play really, really hard. They're really, really tough. They're well coached. Like, they're going to give you everything they have for 4 quarters, and their schemes present, a pretty difficult problem on both sides of the ball.
Their quarterback, KJ Riley, threw for 250 plus yards, couple of touchdowns. He's a senior. What does he do well? What challenges does he pose?
Yeah, the biggest challenge for them is they're such a like smoke and mirrors run the ball operation that they could catch you in some play actions and get them some easy throws if you're not paying attention. And they really took advantage of Fairmont in that. They had some play action, downfield throws, big chunk plays, and he's an operator of that system. He's a senior, he's been there a long time. He knows where to go with the football, how to read the defense. He'll put the ball in the right spot. He's a good runner, a good thrower. He's a complete player. And he capitalized on a lot of things in Fairmont. He's been doing a good job. And we didn't play him last year, but he took over the reins early last year. So we've seen him on film for a while, and he's dangerous. He does a really good job.
I guess when you play an overtime game, there's more opportunity for tackles, but they had a couple of guys in double digits, one with 14, another with a dozen. I would imagine that you saw some things that were impressive about their defense, despite the fact that they gave up 41 points, because sometimes you get to overtime and 7 extra points get tacked on. So how did they fare defensively, and what do they do?
Yeah, well, from experience, we played Fairmont the week before, and those Fairmont running backs are really, really good. I mean, we missed a bunch of tackles, and so did Bloomsburg, but we know how capable those backs are. I think there's a little bit of fool's gold, to think that they can't tackle well, because they run the ball, and what they do really well is they pursue. So if one guy misses the tackle, the next guy is in there violently getting the ball carried down. Like, they have good angles, they run to the ball hard, and a lot of those tackles are effort tackles. It's kind of like Richie McCormick, a guy for us that always runs to the ball and could clean up some plays and gets extra stats because of it, even if it's not his play to make. They have a bunch of guys that play really, really hard, and they do their job, but they do extra by just getting the ball and with intent. It's not just coach tells me to run the ball. They are running the ball with good effort, and they pursue the ball really well.
We certainly thought it was one of the better special teams performances we've seen from a Griffins team. Obviously, when you can score a touchdown in that phase, it goes a long, long way. How is Bloomsburg special teams? Do you think you could have an edge in that facet?
Yeah, they're really good. They're really good. We saw some things from West Liberty we thought we could exploit. Bloomsburg doesn't have a whole lot of holes. Like, they play really hard. They're well coached. They know their assignments. I think it's similar to us. We take a lot of pride in special teams, and you could tell that they do too. So that's going to be a matchup where we have to win to have a better chance to win the game, but it's not going to be easy. We have to make sure we're on our P's and Q's and have great discipline and effort and make the plays that are presented to us. But that's going to be a good battle within the battle of the game, is the special teams battle on both sides. They do a really good job. They take pride in it, and we got to make sure we're doing better than they are in that aspect.
For those unaware, Bloomsburg is a PSAC team, but it's a crossover game. They are in the East, Seton Hill is in the West, so it does not count towards the PSAC West standings. That said, I would imagine that there's a little bit more juice anytime you go against a conference foe, even if they're from out East, and especially one that you played recently. So Does it feel like it's a pretty significant litmus test for your team? Plus, given the opportunity, you now could potentially get a winning record.
Yeah, I think yes and no. I mean, we're very much 1 week at a time. We made a pact with our team early on that this is not an 11 game season. It's 11 independent 1 game season. So we're 0-0 right now. Our record is irrelevant. We're playing a team that is Bloomsburg, but all they are is a stimulus for us to respond to, and our kids really believe in that. So I think the interesting thing is, we have a crossover opponent. We both played Fairmont. It's kind of a good measuring stick to see where we are at the end of this thing, to see, after beating West Liberty and losing to Fairmont, kind of where this team is. But I don't think our team is overhyped about it's a PSAC East or it's a team we beat last year. I think we're just operating like it's another opponent, and we'll do what we can and play a winning formula and see what happens when the time runs out.
Well, you mentioned winning formula. What is that formula? What are the biggest keys to walk out of Offutt with a W?
Yeah, so we have like 10 things we show our kids every week. And it's not necessarily memorizing all 10 things, but it's just how do you play together? How do you play complementary football? So we talk about like winning the rushing battle, right? Having more yards per carry than they do, and they want to run the ball. So that's going to be a tough one this week. We talk about winning the field position, right, with special teams, making sure we start with better field position than they do. Winning the takeaway battle, like we have to have more takeaways than we have turnovers. Winning the third down battle, like there's a lot of those little things that the game within the game that if those 10 things, if more of them are green, no self-inflicted penalties, right? If we green out more of those things, we're probably going to win the football game. And really, it comes down to every week. It's about us. It's about playing code red football. Playing hard, playing fast, and playing together. And if we don't do those things consistently and handle adversity, not get too high, not get too low, we have a pretty good chance to be successful. If we don't, then we put it up to chance.
Kevin, once again, congrats on your first career coaching victory, guiding Seton Hill, and hopefully we can talk to you after victory number 2 in just a little while.
Sounds good. Thanks, John.
That is head coach Kevin May. We'll take a break. We continue. Griffin's Game Day gets you set for the opening kickoff after this, right here on the Westmoreland Sports Network.
And that pass is intercepted. Patterson has another one, and he's got room in front of him. Patterson down the far side. Can he get a pick six? Yes, he can.